actually designed for that size.
Great. Should focus on you then.
I had a bit lower down there. Just smiling would help. The other one as well?
I'm good. I think the rest are fine. So.
Shall we start? Yeah. Ready to go? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. When we talk about Tamil Nadu, I can certainly say that most of us, the cars that we have been driving, for most part, have been manufactured there. And it really has been a lighthouse state when it comes to manufacturing, particularly automotive. And this has been something that's been, this is not new, this has been over the years. And recent times, of course, the investments that they've been making in some of the newer areas, whether it is EV, batteries, and so on and so forth, has been also something which has been very, very noticeable. So in some ways, it is not surprising that we are doing this session, in which we wish to discuss advanced manufacturing at the Tamil Nadu house, so to speak. So, we will get started when we have a very distinguished panel here as well. But I will say that since Ms. Venu has to leave very quickly, I just want to get him into the conversation very quickly and get his views before he leaves on his impressions as to how he has manifested advanced manufacturing at his plants. And what is he doing on the two other topics, which is inclusivity and sustainability, Venu.
So, good afternoon. Sorry I have to run in a bit, but just to share my thoughts on this, I think Tamil Nadu has historically been a tremendous manufacturing base for automotive. Today, it's one of the global hubs. You have Hyundai, Ford, of course, the homegrown companies, Leyland, us, and many others. You're also seeing EV investment from us, from Ola, Ather, and that is really, I think, propelling Tamil Nadu into the future. I think at the same time, we must really appreciate government support for advanced manufacturing, for manufacturing in general, and to create a very favorable ecosystem in Tamil Nadu for investment and growth. I think it also has an excellent talent pool, social infrastructure in Hosur, sort of leveraging Bangalore and also in Chennai on its own. Coimbatore is also emerging as a hub, particularly for tier 2 manufacturing, tier 1 manufacturing, where cost base is lower, weather is good, and has its own unique place in the market, not just for textiles, but for a lot of other advanced manufacturing as well today. In terms of Industry 4.0, of course, this is a very big push for us. If you look at the monitoring of our plants, live management of quality, analytics, and the way we can use it to proactively plan, this is happening very much. On the inclusivity side, we have an engine plant in Hosur, which is exclusively run by women. I think 50% of our engineers are at least women in our intake class.
Cool.
And all this is happening, a lot of it in Tamil Nadu, so it's a good thing to say it here.
Cool.
On the sustainability sides, what we're doing is complete water management. 85% of our power to produce two-wheelers is renewable. We also wastewater we are managing. We have our own forest, which is completely planted and grown with the wastewater in Hosur for about 50 acres inside our facility, where there's also a bird park now. Some of you are definitely welcome to come and visit. So these are some of the things we're doing around inclusivity and sustainability. Of course, electric itself is very much part of the sustainability agenda. We are also extending this to the supplier ecosystem in terms of integration with our systems, processes, and IT, and using and also working closely with them to help them adopt Industry 4.0, leverage the benefits. And in case of some of our suppliers, actually where the OEE or operational efficiency was lower than where it should have been, IoT has provided them a jump start to make that, rather than having to run through it's a bit like, I suppose, going from no phone to cell phone, but they go from low efficiency to high efficiency via IoT. Maybe in some of the established OEMs, they're already at high efficiency. So the delta of IoT is potentially sometimes lower than it is with these suppliers. So that's something interesting we have seen.
Yeah. So I, just add one quick follow-up to that. I think you address almost everything that I wish to discuss. But one of the things which is one of the things is, when you look at your supply chain, does the whole concept of advanced manufacturing, Industry 4.0, scare them? And how are you getting their adoption? Because
it scares them maybe at some level, but this is an eventuality. Either you leverage it for your advantage or you become the victim in that sense. So I think you have to overcome that fear, and it's not easy, but it has to be done.
Right.
And our job, I suppose, at some level, is to be a lighthouse for them and to help them to overcome that. That's our responsibility in the ecosystem.
Right. Right. No, that's wonderful.
I
That's
will
wonderful.
Excuse myself.
Yeah. No.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, Ms. Kulkarni, we'll possibly invite you now to say a few words, and then I think we'll go to our distinguished panel.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And it is indeed a pleasure and privilege for us to have such a distinguished panel here with us today. This is the second edition that we are running this year. At the annual meeting last year, too, we ran the first edition of our event with the same theme, Advanced Manufacturing for Sustainable Growth. Last year, too, we had a distinguished panel, and this year, continuing in the same vein. Tamil Nadu has always been a very strong manufacturing destination. Manufacturing contributes nearly 20% to our GSDP, which is relatively higher in proportion as compared to other states. We have about 40,000 factories, the highest in India. And for us, the SME ecosystem has been the backbone of our growth. The state has grown consistently at a rate in excess of 14%, propelled to a great extent by manufacturing itself. And for us, advancement in manufacturing is key to achieving our vision of becoming a $1 trillion economy by 2030. We are currently at about $275 billion. If we were a country, we would be amongst the top 50 economies in the world. But we aim to reach for the skies. We aim to become a $1 trillion economy by 2030. And to achieve that, manufacturing has to play a key role. The growth cannot be propelled only by services. And for manufacturing itself to achieve the kind of growth that we are targeting, it has to come from adoption of advanced manufacturing, of Industry 4.0. Our neighbors next door are already talking about Industry 5.0. So it's obviously become an imperative from our side. We see a lot of the OEMs, of course, adopting Industry 4.0 on their own. They have the resources. They understand the imperative. For us, given that we already have about 40,000 factories, all of them SMEs, we need to get them on board and to get them to realize the importance of adopting Industry 4.0. How does it add to their value? How do they get over that initial fear of, the costs of adopting Industry 4.0 and spreading the message around, which is also why last year we ran a survey in coordination with Infosys, the University of Nottingham, and our own IIT Madras. We ran an Industry 4.0 survey to understand what is the level of adoption and what is the willingness to adopt Industry 4.0. The results have been quite heartening. And the state itself has taken a number of measures, which, of course, the secretary will be speaking shortly. But just to give a brief on why we are continuously running this theme and why this is important for us, a brief on that. And thank you. I would now hand back to Sanjeev.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kulkarni. So, I think while Mrs. Kulkarni has already mentioned as to what the state has been doing, and we all recognize that, maybe a little bit about the case, if I may call it so, for advanced manufacturing. And we have Professor Gunther here. So maybe I'll start with you, sir. When we talk about advanced manufacturing, and you have been, you've been developing a few things, etc. The whole case about digitization. I mean, today we are dealing with a customer which is very different than we have ever experienced in the past. And there is so much disruption all around us, which is both creating opportunities and challenges for businesses. What do you think is the case for adopting advanced manufacturing for businesses at large?
The capability to really have the production process, the production chain under full control.
Right.
We don't have that. Even in advanced production environments, we waste time and resources by searching and waiting for information, for status, for actuality, for the complete supply chain. So And before we should start in Industry 5.0, we should be aware that we achieved, I would say, 20% of Industry 4.0. We are not on the top of what's behind Industry 4.0. But a second issue now making that revolution a real revolution, and that is sustainability. We are far away, and I think that's for India and for your region very specific, because no specific industry is as far away from sustainability than the mobility industry. Yeah. We are throwing away cars and bikes far too early. You couldn't imagine in Germany, cars live only 11.3 years. I mean, new cars. And now the technology of EV drives gives us an opportunity, also the opportunity to exchange the battery anyway during lifetime. And what we now have to achieve, and Industry 4.0 in its real sense will be the enabler. We have to enter a circular economy business for any industry, but especially for mobility industry, for car industry. And I don't mean that in the sense of recycling. Recycling is nice and important. Right. But this is a single-digit benefit in ecological potential. We have a 30, 40, 50% potential of not wasting energy and resources. Once we start to understand that we can keep our products, our industrial products, our cars, our vehicles, far longer in life, in duty, than we do today. But this requires a full and complete and learning, even AI learning, digital shadow of the product with all its components. So we have a digital car file. Nowadays we already produce a car file. You know that very well with your company. But we have to extend that, and then while using it, this file has to be, filled up with information so that we can do in an industrial way an update and upgrade, which is far more than just software update and upgrade. And so we keep the product not only alive and working, we keep it up to date in terms of being comparable and competitive to the new coming products. And with that, we have a potential that requires all of what we have learned and achieved so far with Industry 4.0. And that's what I wanted to say. And the other 80% we do need very specifically for that purpose. And then this can achieve, we have the potential from now on, if we rethink even EV mobility, that we use, let's say, in 50 years' time, only 2 cars instead of 4. Now we need the resources, the material, the energy of around 4 cars to cover mobility over 50 years, 12 years as an average. And this is now our potential. And there is never, ever in history, in industrial production history, there was the chance that the alignment of the economical advantage and the environmental advantage is so much aligned than with that. And digitalization and working with smart data around the product and process files and using AI to learn from that in a machine learning way, that's our potential. And so we should say, okay, we had a nice start in EV and EV production even, not done well, not used Industry 4.0 enough, not promoted it enough. Perhaps we do a restart and do now a really digitalized, let's say, electromobility world. And the key is advanced digitalized manufacturing with full Industry 4.0.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll come back to you, sir, because there's a couple of follow-up questions. But let me go to Jan, who's actually the CEO and founder of Quantum Computers. So we're talking about adoption of advanced manufacturing, and I think the case has just been made by Professor Gunther. From your standpoint, how do you think the whole piece around quantum computing really fits in? Again, if I may, are there any use cases that have already had success in your experience?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me here. So quantum computing and advanced manufacturing, it doesn't seem like the natural fit maybe, but you have to think about it this way. Where in the process do you need computing power? This is where quantum probably can help. So to give you a little bit of an update of quantum, you can think about it as a computer that is designed to solve a specific problem. And we do this in AI, for example. We run those algorithms on graphical processing units because this fits very well. So there are certain problems that run better on certain computers than on others. And there are problems that at the moment we don't even start calculating because it would take millions of years or so. For example, if you want to design a new material and you really want to design on a molecular level how this material behaves and what are the properties, it's impossible on current machines. And this is where quantum comes in. And of course, material design is something very important. But then another group of problems where quantum computers are good at are optimization problems. And of course, this is something that you have everywhere. You can think about factory optimization, you can think about supply chain optimization, robotics, all of these topics. So there's a huge group of problems there. And just to give you an example, we are working with Siemens on a use case, and they are exploring the use of reinforcement learning run on real quantum computers that are out there today to think about if they get a better performance. However, having said that, is that at the moment, the quantum computers are not yet more powerful than the high-performance computers out there. But this is just a question of time. So if you are a business leader or you're thinking about strategy, of course, you need to be prepared for the moment because you don't want to lose maybe against the others. And for me, it's really just a matter of time when these systems will get into use. And of course, it's really hard to predict the future, but maybe you can think about around 5 years or so when the quantum computers will be used in certain processes. And I think optimization will really be the first ones in the manufacturing side where you see those machines.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll go to Karmesh. Karmesh is actually the EVP and Global Head Consumer and Retail and Logistics at Infosys. So Karmesh, my question to you is that, Industry 4.0 in some ways requires an intersection between information technology and, and operational technology. What is it that Infosys is doing to make this happen?
So I'll give a brief overview on Infosys. So Infosys is an $18 billion enterprise catering to clients in 20 industries across the globe. And even though we are headquartered in India, 98% of our revenues come from international markets of Americas, Europe, and Asia. A lot of work we do in the manufacturing sector across different categories, from industrial, automotive, aerospace, chemicals, mining, to consumer goods. And what we observe in the work that we are doing with a cross-section of global leaders is that there are significant challenges of the enterprise systems being able to talk seamlessly to the manufacturing systems. And what I mean by this is the sensors, the controllers, the manufacturing engineering systems. Those are built by one set of OEMs. The enterprise systems are built by the ERP world of SAP and Oracle and a few others that have come into play. But none of these OEMs have adapted to common data standards. They all have their proprietary data standards. And that makes the task very cumbersome to provide seamless exchange of information which can make the whole manufacturing process more efficient. So visibility is compromised, transparency is compromised, speed of response is compromised, and finally resilience is compromised. But the advancements that have happened in the last few years, especially with cloud computing, which allows high-performing databases on advanced capabilities like graph databases and all, which have become affordable, have become accessible, and are easy to learn, I think those provide opportunities to bridge the gap between the OT and the IT. And in the IT, I would say, again in IT also, there are gaps between the infrastructure layer and the enterprise applications layer. So the future supply chains would be ones where instead of waiting for an event to occur, one would be able to predict that an event is going to occur. Maybe my manufacturing line would increase defects, or maybe I'll have a breakdown. And that prediction would drive a number of events in an autonomous manner. Get the maintenance lined up to do predictive maintenance. Get the spare part replenishment to be put in place. And if it's unavoidable, get the channel partners informed that I could be getting compromised on my shipment schedule, and hence I'm looking at the next best option to fulfill it. And this is where, as Professor was mentioning, Industry 4.0 has to come in play. The state of Tamil Nadu has to provide that ecosystem to the 40,000 odd factories, whether they are small, medium enterprises or large enterprises, to be able to embrace these kinds of advancements. And the Industry 4.0 survey that we are doing together, I think that provides a good insight into the level of preparedness and the kind of interventions that are needed. I hope I answered the question.
No, that's absolutely, Karmesh, you did. I'll go to Mr. Krishnan, but I just have one follow-up. You said 98% of your business comes from overseas. So how will you help the state of Tamil Nadu in doing what they wish to do?
So when I say 98% comes from overseas, we'll help Tamil Nadu because all the companies overseas have to look at India as the China plus one strategy.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So
Thank you.
across the 20 industries, there is an opportunity to look at, with the new geopolitical disruptions that are happening, to look at, and we have 15,000 engineers, majority of whom are working in the state of Tamil Nadu, who are doing manufacturing engineering work for plants of North America, Europe, Asia, Latin America. Hopefully, a lot of that will come to Tamil Nadu and few of the other states in India.
May I state just to your remark, 50% of your engineers are women. I'm very jealous. I would say that's what as a professor for production engineering, I would say I would love to have that.
You know,
congratulations.
That's a very, that is a separate topic in itself. We can get more women in the workplace in India. I think we will, in any case, go a few notches higher, but that's for another day maybe. I just want to get Mr. Krishnan into the conversation, and as most of you know, he is the Additional Chief Secretary, Industries, Investment Promotion and Commerce Department in Tamil Nadu. So, sir, you heard three of the industry players. I think the keenness is there. The case has been made. May I ask you, what is it that the state of Tamil Nadu has already done so far in helping industry get to where it aspires to? We heard Sudarshan, and we just heard Karmesh as well. And the case, your view, sir.
Okay, just before I start on that, and just on this topic of women in the workforce, you make absolutely the point that we need to get more women in the workforce if we have to grow. And that reality is much truer for Tamil Nadu than it is for the rest of the country already, simply because our birth rates have historically been lower and our cohort sizes have been a little smaller. So which means unless participation of women goes up in the workforce, we just won't grow. So we need them there. It's a necessity more than anything else. And we've been in a fortunate situation, primarily because, again, I think in terms of how safe women feel in the workplace, how safe women feel in public spaces, Tamil Nadu has done significantly better than many other parts of India, definitely. And we have a situation today where more than 50% of the industrial female workforce in India is in Tamil Nadu. Wow. So, cool. And we are only 6.5% of the population of India. So the thing that, and I think that holds a secret, many workspaces find them to be far more productive workers, and they are benefiting from this particular revolution. Coming now to the Industry 4.0, I think the case for that, Professor Gunther Schulz has stated it very, very clearly as to why we need to do it, and the possibilities that technology holds, and where we stand right now is also something which is very clear. I think Tamil Nadu woke up to this a few years ago, and we've been making our efforts to make sure that industries in Tamil Nadu are in a position to adopt this technology. We need to do it for a number of reasons. We need to do it, of course, to be a competitive place to manufacture. When we have spoken to a number of investors in Tamil Nadu as to why they want to invest in Tamil Nadu, the single most important reason they give us is the quality of the human resources. Super. And unless we work on the quality of the human resources and they are up to date with the latest technologies and they learn this, we would not be able to adopt Industry 4.0. And to that end, I think across various levels of the industrial workforce, starting with the engineers, working our way down to the diploma holders, and working our way down to the industrial training institute, the vocational certificate holders, the state has been working to improve the quality of education at each of these levels, very often in partnership with private entities as well. We are fostering a very strong industry-academia linkage. We are establishing efforts in the ITIs. We are working with Tata Technologies to improve almost 130 ITIs to produce better quality people equipped for a modern shop floor. Likewise, in our diploma institutions, polytechnics, and in engineering colleges, we are working with industry with a linkage to enable this. And to serve the existing workforce in industries and to serve the MSMEs, what we have done is encouraged, in partnership again with the private sector, to set up centers of excellence. We've already got 3 up and running, and we are open to establishing more with 3 major engineering companies, GE, Siemens, and Dassault, where those centers of excellence actually offer a possibility to train both students and existing industrial workers, plus a cluster facility where they can design what they can't do back. If you're an SME and you do not have access to that kind of technology, they're able to actually design products. Some cases, they're even able to use additive and other manufacturing opportunities, 3D printing and so on, which is available at these locations to actually make critical parts. So this is available as a cluster center for both MSMEs and other industries who want to design. We have 3 of those which function under TIDCO, which is one of our companies. Another company called SIPCOT in association with Forge, which is a homegrown Coimbatore-based venture, is doing one at Sri Perumbudur, again near Chennai, and one at Hosur, which are both important manufacturing bases, which again is a common facility center both to innovate and to use these advanced manufacturing techniques to be able to adopt them on the shop floor. Many more of these are needed, and we are open to collaborating with industry to enable this across the state. Clearly, we are a state where with 52% of the cohort between 17 and 23 in higher education and vocational education, and that's twice the national average in India, and I understand marginally above what it is even in the United States. There's aspiration for people to do better jobs. At the same time, we are a strong manufacturing state, which means we have to marry these 2 strengths and make sure that the youth of the state get better quality jobs with content, which is linked to manufacturing, and this is the way to go, and that is the inclusion element of what we are trying to do in the state.
Wonderful, thank you, sir. So, I mean, one of the things which I picked up was really, and which I always am concerned about is, the brain drain from India. And I think some of the stuff that you mentioned, harnessing human capital, I think is very, very critical. And, you've been working on it. But one follow-up question I had, all this focus that you have on human capital and in some ways, helping the academicians in some ways, what do you think can enable, really IP development, if I may call it so, or technology development, new idea development in some ways? Yeah, we can get technology into the state and, we can then build on it. But any focus on?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. What we have launched, there are 3 independent policies which we launched in the last year and a half. One is a research and development policy for the state, another is a life sciences policy, and a third is a fintech policy. The goal of all of these policies is actually precisely to improve the IP content of what gets delivered, get more research done in the state, improve academia industry linkages so that more of the IP is created which is directly relevant to what needs to happen with industry.
Right.
The state government is, we have a phenomenally successful IIT Madras Research Park, and we want to replicate that model across other state universities in Tamil Nadu, which will enable the industry-academia linkage and also foster innovation and foster startups and new enterprises to work with technology to go further. And again, that will probably enable more of the brains to stay there or many brains to come back and contribute.
Yeah, reverse the brain drain. Professor Gunther, I'll come back to you. I think I asked Sudarshan the question about, how does he look at his supply chain? And what does he do to encourage them? And does these buzzwords about Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing scare his supply chain, for instance? Because he can be only as successful as his supply chain is. What are your thoughts? How can we get the SMEs more aligned to this concept, which may seem very hard for them at times?
Thank you. Very good question. The advanced manufacturing is a huge team play. It's not just sufficient to have some core key players, OEMs, and core. Even you need necessarily core software and data support players, bigger players. It needs a big ecosystem because the supply chain is so sensible, and those last 2 years showed that in an intensive way. So you need to build up competencies on all levels, and to fill the gaps, you need quite a lot of very flexible SMEs, and they have to catch up. So that needs to have a community. Could be a regional community. I think your 80 million people is quite a big community, but even possible in that size. I just compared that's whole Germany, But we do split that in regions, but we are in North Rhine-Westphalia. We are 16 million, and I would say we have a quite established ecosystem, and that needs a more intensive and structurally enabled, let's say, playground, training ground between the big players and the small players. The Infosys, together with a lot of software and equipment providers, have to be as close as possible together, and those who are producing have to be as close as well. What we tried, because you perhaps know, or you hopefully think that we are doing that quite well in Germany. Actually, we are not. We are doing it perhaps a bit better than some other regions in the world, but we are not even catching half of the potential. That's the reason why we started some 15 years ago to establish an industry campus on campus. We have now 420 top technology firms, the big ones, the Siemens, I think Siemens is 5 times matriculated or so, but mainly that's the majority of the numbers of companies, SMEs. And they are, we even call that matriculated, and they have to pay a membership fee. And with that fee is, for instance, included that in each of the centers, we have up to now 7 of planned 15 clusters. Each cluster has about from 3 to 12 centers. And in a center, one center is, for instance, the Machine Tool Academy. I would say we are in Germany quite strong in machine tool making. I would say 60% of all leading machine tool producers are members of that academy.
Right.
And they come together, for instance, with researchers, with software companies, twice in a year, and they have coupons with their immatriculation fee. And we prepare a long list of topics which are the leading problems for the industry, for the big ones and the small ones, each of them. And we as researchers prepare potential approaches to solve that. And then you have to run with your coupon and say, this is urgent, this is urgent, this is urgent. Because we combine in a common solution 3 problems. If you leave us as researcher, talking now as a professor, alone, we select topics that we like, where it is nice to do research on. The problem is, it could be a topic that solves no problem. At least no problem in industry. Don't leave us completely alone as researchers. So we need some guidance. And if you have an interesting partnership and potential money very quickly for that, then we are interested, even if the topic in the first run is not so interesting for us. Second is, SMEs are afraid. They think I don't have enough knowledge to even talk to Infosys or even talk to us as academians. So you have to invite them and that they have regular meetings with their people, because we actually really, and it's possible now, to get the SME core people on the same level than the big players. So they have to have a kind of student and teaching and interaction place. That is Industry Campus.
Right.
And third is the big players, they want to have application fields, early application. That's for software companies, for technology companies, and it has to be a kind of neutral ground. We as universities can provide neutral grounds, place to be, we can moderate that in a capable way, and that is our campus idea. And that's what we support even from our Fraunhofer activities. I'm one of the directors of the Institute of Production Technology in Aachen, and that's what we prepared, if I may say so, together with our partners, where we would be very happy and ready to support, if you want that, to support a bit building up of these such campus structure in India, because I believe that is a measure and a structure that just with the same sources, with the same resources, just accelerates.
Yeah.
And so, and I would really, to anybody who might be interested in that, I would really love to invite you to come to Aachen and to see the campus. It normally, if I have to explain it here, and you would let me, it would take hours. But if you come to Aachen, you would just see it. Well, it took us, unfortunately, 15 years to come at that status. Now we have learned it, so we could help that it would go much faster. And how I understand you want to have it fast, so perhaps there could be a nice collaboration.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's an offer which we cannot be missed.
Okay, I mean, since you've raised the issue of an offer which cannot be missed, I can of course inform this audience that it's an offer which has already been accepted.
Wonderful.
So,
Super.
Sorry that I put it so.
Super. So Jan, I'll come to you now. I think, you spoke about quantum computing and you said that adoption, will take potentially some time, etc. It's also very R&D intensive, and that's why I asked Mr. Krishnan about the focus on R&D. From your standpoint, do you think that there are certain preconditions or capabilities which are required for this to be enabled?
No, that's a good point, and I'm a strong believer also in ecosystems. And if you think about computing, everything is going to the cloud, which is not very local, right? It's kind of distributed. So how do you create ecosystems in such kind of an environment? And I'm working a bit with the European Commission as well, and we looked at this, and we thought, okay, there are examples actually out there. In the UK, we have great universities around Cambridge area, and there was a lot of computing power installed there. And what happened is that quite a few AI startups kind of assembled in this vicinity. So the kind of the seed was really the computing power was there, and then of course you need to have this ecosystem of academia, like education, talent, we touched on this, and then the startups that come and the industry. So this is something that we are trying to build, and now we are doing this, for example, in Finland. We have installed there a quantum computer, which is connected at the moment to Europe's largest supercomputer, LUMI, or maybe not surprisingly, but luckily, the same thing happened. So since we started this, already 3 new startups are there doing software development, and of course we have also there a great ecosystem around research institutes and universities. So coming to your question, I think this is a way to go, and I think especially here in Tamil Nadu, everything is there, right? That kind of needs to be there to build such kind of an ecosystem. So you have great research institutions, you have the industry there. So maybe what's missing still a bit is then, okay, how do we get then the quantum computers now in this case, for example, there. And our team has been already visiting quite a few times, and we are very happy also to collaborate on this, because I think this is the way to go. Because also what happens on the talent side, this brain drain that was mentioned, actually what we see is that, and this was a fear also in Europe, that great scientists, great entrepreneurs and others, they move away to Silicon Valley and elsewhere. And now actually we are with this ecosystem approach in a situation where great people come back actually to work in Europe, because we have an interesting field to work on, and we have these ecosystems. So I think that this effect you will also see when you build such kind of ecosystems, for example, in Tamil Nadu.
Wonderful, wonderful, Jan. I do want to get the audience also into the conversation, but I'll go to Karmesh next. Karmesh, you talked about the study that you did, which is the Industry 4.0 readiness study that you did. So one, I mean, broadly, what does it say? And I do also want you to touch upon the topics that we have been discussing, the whole focus on SME versus large corporations. You know, it goes to the inclusivity question. And then the little bit about, does it say anything about sustainability, for instance? I think those three.
Sure. So one of the key insights coming out is there are many SMEs who are aspirational. They really want to embrace advanced manufacturing. They want to bring more predictability, more resilience in their operations with the customers whom they are, the upstream and downstream players with whom they are operating. The struggle for them is they don't know where to start and how to start. So it's an issue of skill, competency, where I think, as Professor suggested, partnership with the research capabilities and with government support, a framework can be created to help provide that skill and competency support. Amongst the larger enterprises, we find that there are many who have done pilots, but then have just been going in analysis paralysis modes on the pilots and not moving ahead. But there are few who are clearly winners, who have done the pilots, who have figured out how to scale it, and actually are using their manufacturing hubs in Tamil Nadu as lighthouses for their international manufacturing network, which is very encouraging, because that improves the appeal of the state to drive core innovation in different facets of manufacturing. Now coming to the point of sustainability, I think there a lot needs to be done. Sustainability deconstructs into various aspects. Earlier professor talked about the lifetime ownership of the cars. One has to look at creating not just one cycle, but 2 cycle, 3 cycle e-commerce journeys, so which is now being called as re-commerce in the industry, so that you don't offload an asset after a short duration of life cycle. And there again, the manufacturing network has to evolve of how do you refurbish and send that refurbished asset back into the supply chain so that we are not burdening the planet more than required. And there are learnings to be taken. If you look at the fashion apparel industry, some of the leading brands have now started creating the second, third life cycle of that pair of shoe or of that jacket. Couldn't that be done in the automotive industry? Could it be done in the industrial components industry? Yeah. So there's an important aspect of sustainability. I think Tamil Nadu is also blessed with rich sources of renewable energy within the state, adjacent to the state. It has to see how to harness that power and create incentives to go for the renewable sources of energy. Those incentives could be in the form of tax holidays, SOPs, and others. And there could also be incentives to the big OEMs where they bring in their sustainability best practices and enable the SMEs to embrace them, and they get some tax incentives in driving that, which makes the ecosystem more complete and comprehensive.
Right. Thanks, Karmesh. This is very, very enlightening. And, you know, on that note, Mr. Krishnan, I'd like to come back to you. You know, we have heard from Professor, and then Jan talked about, you know, what's needed for an ecosystem for adopting quantum computing. And then we heard the study, the readiness survey that Infosys has done with you. What are the interventions that you're now looking at to make this, to mainstream, if I may, Industry 4.0 in Tamil Nadu? And in some ways, let me also say that, when we talk about growth, we're also looking at inclusive growth. And secondly, to be at the cutting edge rather than just being at the doing things at mass scale. So your views, sir, on those topics?
I think the important thing for a state like Tamil Nadu, as has already been mentioned, we need to maintain our competitive edge, and we need to be right there in terms of adopting technology. And sometimes where it helps is you can actually leapfrog. Even if you've not done it, you can actually reach out. I mean, the digital economy in India, for instance, is a good example of how you leapfrog and skip 1 or 2 levels and then get where you need to. So I think historically this is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity which the government has recognized. For instance, we are talking today in Davos, and it's fair to mention that we are already in collaboration with the World Economic Forum, and the Advanced Manufacturing Hub for India and for South Asia is actually located out of Chennai and out of Tamil Nadu. And we are collaborating with them to see how we can actually evangelize this message across industry within Tamil Nadu. Our link up with Fraunhofer University, with the Fraunhofer Institutes, has also been now, we've been speaking to them, we've been interacting with them for almost a year, and now we have approved the way forward in terms of the first phase of a detailed study on how we can create that ecosystem and how we build that industry-academia linkage, how we try actually to create the ecosystem and pull in all the initiatives that we've already started and leverage them better to take this further, and then fill the gaps in terms of what are the add-on things we need to do. So that is the second part of what we are doing. And the critical input into this is the readiness study, because the readiness study then gives us where are the critical gaps, which are the areas we need to address, how do we reach out to industry. We shouldn't forget that CII possibly is present here today. I thought I saw somebody from CII, but CII's largest membership is out of Tamil Nadu, because it originally started as Confederation of Engineering Industry, and engineering industry is strong in Tamil Nadu. So we have all these outreach points as well. And one of our strengths has been the ability to work with industry and the ability to work with the private sector to see this is created. It's not, it's in everybody's interest. It's in the government interest to keep it competitive. It's in the government and the society's interest to make sure that everybody is included into this process and they are skilled to take it up. It's in industry's interest to stay competitive and win a bigger part of the market share, be able to actually derive all the benefits which have been pointed out, and make sure that we literally help to save the planet in terms of using the resources that we have far more effectively than we are doing today. I think all of that contributes to it, and we are ready to walk that extra mile to make this happen.
Wonderful. I think that's wonderful, sir. So on that note, maybe I'd like to get the audience involved a little bit. And if anybody has questions, comments, or indeed suggestions, if you can let us know. We would need to get a mic to you because this is being live streamed, so we'll need to get a mic to you. Yeah, okay. There.
Hi, so I'm Abhinav. I'm from Accurex. We manufacture medical devices in India. So we're a MSME company. So the challenge is, we are so busy with our day-to-day operations that it's very difficult for us to think about building advanced manufacturing systems. Like in larger companies, you have a manager who will be looking after only sustainability, or you'll have a manager who will be looking after only automation or advanced technologies. So for us to get into sustainability or building advanced manufacturing, is there a framework we can refer to? Right? These are the guidelines. This is the stuff you need to do, and just follow that. So it'll be much easier to do that. So there's a government in India, the government of micro and small industries has a certification called Z, zero defect, zero effect. So we looked at that about 5 years back, and we didn't find it very a lot of advantages in it. But I will recheck it again. Maybe things have changed. But is there something?
If I may start, and you give the right answer, and just would say, perhaps you don't believe that, but that's exactly the same problem a German SME has as well. they say we have to improve that. We have to look at more advanced and Industry 4.0 production, but we are so busy we can't do that because we are an SME. We don't have stuff for that. And the solution is first of all share the capacity and the competence with others. You perhaps as an SME, you don't need a full-staffed production improvement department and people. You perhaps need only a tenth of a person with that skill and available in sharing with others having similar problems. And that's an idea of these centers that I mentioned. And if then, and that's normally necessary for the SMEs, and that's your part, they should be, even with that portion of the resources they need, be supported a bit. Of course, it should be, because it's government money, timely limited. But with that, it is just a small portion. You need your own competence and capacity, but it can be far smaller than you nowadays imagine, and how you would try to do it if you do it alone. Because then normally you normally don't even attract the right people who are, let's say, prepared and trained enough to do that job. So sharing in a group, in a community, is one part of the answer. The other one is a bit of funding, and that I give to, to the government.
Okay, let me, to your question, I don't know whether you manufacture currently in Tamil Nadu or not, but let me make an invitation to you and let me make a pitch to you. We are actually establishing a medical devices park just outside Chennai, which has precisely the kind of facilities that you need. There are a number of common cluster facilities, including for testing, including for manufacturing techniques, which you can pool and come in together. It is under a program of the Department of Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals of the Government of India. So their contribution is also there significantly. But amongst the parks in India, this is the furthest down the line. And already we have started allotting land to companies, and they've started the process of establishing. And you can start, and all the common facilities will be ready by the time you're ready for production. And a lot of what the professor mentioned, we will try and see and get into the park. And an important learning for me also, and which we will make a note of, and see that these advanced manufacturing techniques are also encouraged as part of the common facilitation services we offer. So come in there and we'll help you do it.
Thank you. Thanks.
To Mr. Krishna, yes, sir. I'm Thomas Mottagala. I'm president of Tomar Group in the United States, and we employ the largest number of Indian non-IT mechanical, electrical, civil, electronic engineers. What we do is a lot of water, wastewater infrastructure. So my question to you directly is, I understand Tamil Nadu has a lot of still incomplete job in that part. So how may we support you, help you, or assist you with or without investment by form of knowledge transfer for free or other ways as part of my give back to the country?
No, we are always open to hearing and absorbing knowledge from every source that comes to us. We can speak offline on what precisely we need to do. As the Industries and Investment Promotion Department, we can put you in touch with the relevant people. If I heard you right, you said waterways maintenance and water maintenance.
Water and wastewater
treatment. For us, it's a very, very significant area, simply because it's part of the whole sustainability angle. It's also part of the fact that we are generally a water deficient state, so we like to save every drop of water in the state and reuse the water. We have possibly the strongest water reuse requirements mandated in India. Every industry needs to establish a common effluent treatment plant and ensure zero liquid discharge from the plant, which means all the water needs to be recycled. We have a specific company which deals with this. It's called the Tamil Nadu Water Investment Company, which is tasked by the government. It's a joint venture company with a private partner. It is tasked by the government primarily to ensure that wastewater reuse, both from industrial processes and domestic processes, is carried forward. And we also have a wastewater reuse policy. So we can speak offline and we can put you in touch with the relevant partners. This is a requirement every time every industry sets up. This is a requirement we have. And they adopt both patented technology from TWIC, the Tamil Nadu Water Investment Company, or any other technology that they can bring in, and you can certainly contribute there.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Anyone? Any other questions? Okay, on that note, I'll possibly hand it over to Ms. Kulkarni again for concluding remarks and vote of thanks, I suppose.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. A very interesting discussion. Thank you for moderating the discussion. Thank you, Professor, for your inputs. And of course, we will continue to discuss further and work together now towards creating the same ecosystem that you've been talking about. And Mr. Yan, thank you so much. And we would also hopefully continue with our discussions on what we can do in Tamil Nadu. With Infosys, of course, with the survey, our work continues. Probably we can derive more insights on working with the SMEs who have shown a greater willingness, try and execute some of these Industry 4.0 technologies in those SMEs, and then try and make them lighthouses for the other SMEs to follow, show that there is a lot of value for them for maybe a little bit of investment, which can possibly be supported by government also.
Can I just make a point, Pooja, and this is for the benefit of this gentleman who asked the question. The survey is also coming back with a set of recommendations, which is a methodology, a framework on how SMEs could actually go along the journey of embracing in a step-by-step manner, looking at various aspects of technology, process, assets, organization. So levels of affordability will vary, but we are distilling that experience from the work that we are doing across the globe. There is an entity in Infosys called Infosys Knowledge Institute, which is bringing practitioner expertise from the work we are doing with leading automotive companies in Germany, in US, leading aerospace companies, leading industrial manufacturing companies, and that is coming out, which hopefully will be made available to all companies aspiring to scale in Tamil Nadu.
Thank you, Mr. Karmesh. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the panelists once again for being here and sharing your thoughts. A lot of learning for us from this discussion, and we hope to be back next year with a third edition, hopefully with better results.
Thank you.